What's up guys, this is Chris here, and today we're going to be doing a pretty interesting video. Today we're going to show you every 9mm Glock. I noticed the other day that I just happened to own almost all of them but one, but I borrowed one, don't worry. So we have every one here to show you. So we're going to go from the smallest 9mm Glock you can buy all the way to the biggest one. We're going to show the differences, talk about the specs, maybe a little bit of price. I'll tell you some of my favorites and what I think is the best model of Glock for each particular use. Now before we get into the video, I want to thank the sponsor of this video, Handle It Grips. These are actually the edge grips that I have on my Glock 19 MOS, and I also have them on my 34 that you're going to see here in a minute. The reason why I like these is because they're very affordable and they add an absolute ton of texture. The edge grips actually feel like stippling, and you can actually have that feeling without ruining your grip, as opposed to stippling, which you're stuck with forever. Now, if the edge grips are a little too edgy for you, they also have the Elite texture. You can get either of the textures for almost every gun you want. All you have to do is use code HONEST for 5% off your Handle It Grips order, link in the description. And we would like to thank the other sponsor of this video, the Sonoran Desert Institute. The SDI has been a long-time sponsor of the channel. We really appreciate them. If you want to get an education in anything firearms related, they are a university that specializes in firearms education. If you want to get a degree in gunsmithing, drone technology, or anything else associated with firearms, it's never been a better time to be your own boss, or you can work for one of the quality companies that you've always wanted to. Please go down and check out the Sonoran Desert Institute. So that being said, now let's get into it with the first one, the G43. This is the smallest 9mm Glock that you can buy commercially in the United States. I just want to say thanks to Tony over at Laugh and Load, because he let me borrow this, and I appreciate that because I didn't have one. It is a single stack variant in 9mm. This has a 3-inch barrel and it has a 6+1 capacity, but you can get bigger magazines if you look. This gun has a $450 MSRP, making it one of the cheapest Glocks you can buy, and it is certainly one of the slimmest and easiest to carry. However, it is the hardest Glock to shoot. It has the shortest sight radius. It has no MOS system, at least this one doesn't, so you're gonna have to run the iron sights. And on top of that, it's gonna have a good amount of recoil because it only weighs 18 ounces, which is again great for carry, but a little bit harder to shoot. You get the limited capacity, but you only get bigger from there. Now, if you're looking for a dedicated concealed carry gun, the 43 is a pretty good way to go because you can carry it on you all the time, not really notice. The gun's very reliable like all the other Glocks, and it works the exact same way. So I think it's a great gun for carry, although I think there's one slightly better, which is going to be the Glock 43X. Now, it's just slightly bigger than the Glock 43, same barrel length and same slide length, so if you're carrying appendix, you won't notice any extra length. However, it does have a longer grip with, instead of a 6-round magazine, it comes with a standard 10-round magazine. So you get 4 more rounds in the gun, and that is a lot more. So you also get a longer grip, which fits most American-sized hands a little bit better, since the 43 is a very small gun. If you're looking for a little bit bigger grip, the 43X is an absolutely great way to go. This one is all beat up because it is my carry gun, and this one is a little souped up because I did have a lot of work done to it, but all the Glock slides look relatively the same. Just imagine that this one is stock. And if you were going to get a dedicated concealed carry gun that has Glock on the side of it, I would absolutely recommend this one. We have well over 1,000 rounds for this gun. The trigger is pretty good. It's stone cold reliable and extremely durable. Pack that with the track record of the 43X, and I think you're picking a very, very good carry gun. For quite a while, these were the most popular gun in North America, and for good reason. They match a price of around $450 with a 3.5-inch barrel and a 10+1 capacity, and it only weighs 23 ounces as opposed to the 18-ounce Glock 43, but you get almost double the capacity and better shootability as well. Now, if you still want a good carry gun, but the 43X isn't enough for you, I introduce the Glock 48. Now again, custom because this is another one of my carry guns, but this is just a Glock 43X in grip, but it has a longer slide with the 4.17 slide as opposed to the 4.34. Now that allows a little bit longer sight radius, a little bit less recoil, but it also adds a little bit of length for carry, so be aware of that. As long as you're comfortable with it, you gain the added benefits of a little bit of recoil reduction, and you actually get a little bit of velocity increase on the 4-inch barrel, which allows for a little better expansion on hollow points. Now, A lot of people make a big deal about velocity when it's not always the biggest difference in handguns, but in my experience, go from a 3-inch to a 4-inch, you do get a lot greater expansion and penetration, usually with certain types of hollow points. So I would consider the Glock 48 certainly an upgrade in shootability. Now, as you can see, I obviously like this gun because I put a lot of money into it. We have a Safari Precision slide here with an upgraded trigger. I think there's a Vickers trigger, and then I am rocking some Talon grips. I really like this gun because you can run the 10+1 mags in the 43X and the 48, so it gives you more capacity than the 43, but you can even run the bigger Shield Arms magazines to give you a 15+1 capacity in a gun that is only an inch wide, and it is around 20 ounces, which is very impressive. Now, the Glock 48 has an inch bigger barrel, but it's going to be 2 ounces heavier than the Glock 43X as well, but I think it's a good trade-off because it is very, very shootable. If you're going to rock the iron sights, you get a longer sight radius, and that is nice, and on top of that, you get that more velocity and you get that more recoil control. So I do think it is a solid package. For about the same price and about the same weight, just get a little bit extra shootability. Now we'll get into the double stack guns. The smallest double stack you're able to buy in the Glock lineup is the Glock 26, or what I like to call the Fat Baby. Now, this is a little bit different than the other ones because they're more of a modern gun, whereas the Glock 26 goes back a long way. This is a Gen 5, but there are lots of gens of Glock. They obviously go from 1 to 5, and the 5 is the latest and greatest with the most features, and almost all of these are available in a Gen 5 as well. The Glock 26 was a gun that I carried for a very long time. I have a lot of rounds through, and I absolutely trust. Now, the benefit of upgrading to the double stack 26 over something like the 43X is you don't have to run these slimline magazines anymore. You can run the big magazines from the Glock 19, Glock 17, or Glock 34, which we'll get into later. Now, this guy does have a 10+1 capacity, but as I mentioned, it is capable of the 15, 17, and even 22 round magazines, so you can upgrade your capacity a great deal. You can carry a very small slimline package and then carry a larger magazine in your pocket in case you need to upgrade depending on the situation. Now, this one has a 3-inch barrel. It comes with the standard Glock sights and standard Glock features, which all the other Glocks do as well. It has a very, very tiny grip, but it is going to be a little bit less comfortable to carry because unlike the 43, the 48, and the 43X, it is a little bit fatter. That's why I call it the Fat Baby, because it is the same width as the full-size guns, which is going to be slightly more uncomfortable if you carry inside the waistband. But if you have a quality holster, I don't think you're going to notice. Personally, I didn't notice, and I carried this for quite a while. Again, I really love this gun, and it has a solid reputation even over the previous ones I mentioned, because this was actually used a lot in duty use back in the day, and even still today with undercover officers of all different organizations, because it has the same magazine capability as the larger guns, which police generally carry, and then they can use this for deep cover situations. The 26 has an MSRP which is a little bit higher, around $500. It has a 3.5-inch barrel and a 10+1 capacity, weighing only 22 ounces. Now time to talk about arguably the most famous Glock of all time. This is the Glock 19. This is a Gen 5 as well in FDE, and this guy is sort of the guy that started the concealed carry craze in the first place, and one of the highest selling, if not the highest selling pistol of all time. It matches all the great features you get with Glock with arguably the perfect size for carry and duty, which is why so many people carry it and use it for duty use. It has a full 4-inch barrel and the same double stack capability of the 26. However, this new one comes with the MOS system, which is nice. It comes with plates so you can put any dot on it that you want to. It has a 15 round magazine capacity and is certainly more shootable than the Glock 26. The extra 1/2 inch really does help because you get a lot longer grip as well, and it helps you steady the pistol and control it under recoil. It is still very lightweight at only 23.5 ounces, and it has a $550 MSRP, being slightly higher than the Glock 26. There's just more gun to be had, so it's going to cost a little more. Overall, this is probably the most reliable and time-tested and trusted Glock in 9mm of all time, so you really can't go wrong with the Glock 19. And if you're buying this for a general purpose gun, this is probably one of the best ways to go. All the guns below this, what I would consider only carry guns, and they're great at carry, but they are limited when it comes to shooting competition or using for self-defense or a duty use gun or a home defense gun, whereas this gun can really do it all and is what I would consider the standard for do-it-all pistol. Moving up from there, we're gonna get a little weird. First off, we're gonna talk about the Glock 45, and this is going to be basically a Glock 19 slide on a Glock 17 frame. Being that we haven't got to the Glock 17 yet, we'll get there, but it is the full-size frame. So we have a 4-inch slide on a full-size frame, and instead of the Glock 19, this one is capable of 17+1. So you get a little bit bigger grip, so you get a little bit more recoil control even, and then the flush fit mags are going to be longer. Now the 19 can still accept all of the larger magazines, so in a way you actually lose functionality with this because you can't actually run the 15-round magazines. However, you do gain a lot of control and accuracy, and a grip this big is actually a lot easier to get out of the holster as well. That's one thing I want to mention, is a larger grip is easier to access in your holster, and if you can't get the gun out, it's not very useful. So there is a lot of pros to this as well. Now the Glock 45 was the first like snubby Glock. It was again a 4-inch barrel on a full-length grip, so you can have the ergonomics of the Glock 17, but if you're sitting in a patrol car, for instance, it doesn't have so much length that it pushes your belt up, which is really nice. A lot of people use these as well for inside the waistband carry, especially appendix, because this is a dimension that people are concerned about. Now the grip prints, but this will end up sticking you in the dick occasionally, so I'd rather print than get stabbed in the dick by my barrel. So that is one of the reasons people do that. Now the other reason is because the Glock 45 makes a great comped gun. So you can hang a compensator off this and not gain a whole lot of length, and then you have a shorter slide reciprocating, which makes for a really fast and really shootable gun. Very cool gun, but not much different than the Glock 19, other than the fact you got a little bit longer grip. Now to split hairs even more, we have the Glock 19X, which is essentially the exact same damn gun as the Glock 45, just with slightly different features. For the US military contract, the Glock didn't win. Now, it's not because they had an inferior gun. I do believe the Glock is a superior gun to the P320. Everybody who watches my channel knows how I feel about the P320, but it is what it is. And they went with the P320 and not this, so Glock then sold this on the civilian market without the safeties and other features that the Glock 19 and the military contract had. So it is essentially a tan Glock 45. However, the new version that came out does come with a little extra to make you want to get it a little bit more, and it does come with raised night sights and this threaded barrel right out of the factory, which is pretty cool. Now I'm rocking some handle it grips on these. These are my personal favorite grips, and there will be a link below if you're interested. Now the Glock 19X is arguably my favorite Glock right now, just because of the feature packed set that you get for the price, and I really think the FDE looks super cool, and it does have that I failed the military contract cool factor about it that you just gotta have.
Oh my god. Way to jab.
It just feels like second place when I shoot it, you know what I mean? Now again, the 45 and the 19X are solid choices for do-it-all guns as well, because they are still very versatile and you can still carry them super easy because they have that 4-inch barrel and they only weigh around 24 ounces. Now the difference between the Glock 45 and the 19X are going to be in price. Instead of having a standard MSRP of around $550, you end up having to pay around $700 or even $800 for the 19X. Again, you got to pay for that second place cool factor. So other than that, there isn't a lot of difference in shootability, but it does look fucking cool. Now we'll get into the Glock 49. And the Glock 49 is another 9mm Glock with all the other ones, and it has the Generation 5 features, like we mentioned all the larger frame guns do, with the double stack capacity. So a 4.5-inch barrel with a 15-round magazine capacity grip. So you get the 19 grip with the 17 slide. Now you're not stuck with that. You can actually run a Glock 19 slide on this, and that's the big upgrade with the 49, is that you can basically run the shorter or longer slides. So if you want to have a shorter grip and a longer slide, you can do that, and if you want to have a shorter grip and a shorter slide, you can also do that. Adversely, they have the Glock 47, which kind of does just the opposite. So with this one, you can run a full-size grip and a full-size slide, or a full-size grip and a shorter slide. So between these two, you can make whatever combination of guns you want, and that's really the only difference between these and the two previous ones. Now finally, we'll get into the gun that started it all, which is the Glock 17. And if you're looking for a self-defense gun, a duty gun, a home defense gun of that type, I would absolutely 100% recommend the Glock 17. It was the first commercial Glock, and it still stands the test of time at arguably the best full-size Glock. It is, again, the full-size frame, 17-round capacity, with a 4.5-inch barrel, MSRP of $550, and you can get absolutely shit tons of different versions of it, anywhere from FDE to OD. You can get them with night sights or not, you can get them with optics mounts or not, you can get them with threaded barrels or not. you can get a lot of shit with them, is what I'm trying to say. Used by pretty much every law enforcement agency in America at one point or another, used by US Special Forces at one time or another, just like the Glock 19. It is extremely time tested, it's very easy to shoot, it is very reliable, and accessories are literally everywhere. So I would say that if you are looking for an absolute do-it-all gun, somewhere in between, you can go with the Glock 19. If you're looking for an absolute duty gun, where you're not gonna carry it much, but you might carry it every once in a while, but mostly home defense and duty use, this is a super good way to go. Now we'll get into the larger frame guns, and we'll get into my personal favorite, which is the Glock 34. Now, this is more of a competition style gun. It is the Glock 17 size frame, again, the 17 round capacity, but instead of the 4.5-inch barrel, you get a 5.25, and you get a little bit longer sight radius, a little bit less recoil and pulse, and generally you get a little bit better features. This one here comes with the stock trigger, but I do have the handle of grips on there, and I am rocking some tag precision sights. Now the 34 is kind of an old standby for competition, but it also makes for a fucking phenomenal home defense gun. Super reliable, super durable, and even though it has a very large sight radius and a very long barrel length that gives you extra velocity, gives you extra hitting power, but it also is really, really light. For only an ounce more than a Glock 17, you get more shootability, better accuracy at distance, and you get just a cooler gun because this is the gun that John Wick used in John Wick 2. Now, like the 17, there's a lot of different versions of this, but I would absolutely recommend the Terran Tactical if you have the money, because man, is it super cool, and John Wick knows what he's talking about. And then finally, we have the latest and greatest, the gun that came out very recently, the absolutely ridiculously long Glock 17L. For comparison to the standard Glock 17, which I have somehow already lost, here we go, there's a big pile of Glocks in front of me. You can see that it has a significantly longer barrel at a dramatic 6-inch barrel, but still only weighing around 24 ounces, which is very impressive. So you get a very long sight radius with a very high velocity for a standard handgun, and you get all that for a very lightweight package and very shootable again. Now this one's very similar to the 34, where it's gonna be really good for home defense, really good for competition, but I probably wouldn't recommend carrying it unless you carry outside the waistband, and I wouldn't recommend that unless you are an officer, because you're just as likely to have somebody steal your gun and shoot you in the dick with it than you are actually use the thing. So I prefer the element of surprise. I like concealed carry, and that's what I recommend here. And I don't recommend carrying the 17L. Now, as far as a plinking gun and a having fun gun and maybe a home defense gun, I think it's an absolutely great choice because it's very, very shootable. Overall, I think it is an interesting gun, and I think if I was gonna pick just 3 of these, like if I was gonna pick one for competition, one for home defense, and then one for concealed carry, which I would consider the 3 uses that I use a handgun for, I would probably go with the Glock 34 for competition, considering that's what I use. I would probably pick the Glock 19 for a do-it-all gun, and I would certainly carry the Glock 43X. Those are my personal 3 favorite Glocks, and I stand by that. That being said, you could switch them out for any other variant. I wouldn't be too unhappy if I had the 48 either, considering I carry that as well. I think what you're gonna have to do is decide for yourself what use you wanna use these for, and then go from there. That's kind of the most important thing. How big are your hands? How good does the gun feel in your hands? What size of gun do you wanna carry? What size of gun do you wanna use for home defense? You figure that stuff out, and then a model of Glock will be there for you. I promise you that. There's enough to choose from, and they all work great, so the sky's the limit. Choose whichever one you think is the coolest. Overall, I hope you liked this video. It's basically just a breakdown of every 9mm Glock in case you guys wanted to see them for yourself and maybe see the size comparisons in the filler. I hope this helped you. I know it wasn't as informational as my usual videos, but I think it was pretty cool. Let me know what you think. We can always do more of these. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. Please help out your Oklahoma shelters, and remember to recycle. I'll check you later.